Have you ever wondered how your general health and wellness affects your scoliosis? Hi, I'm Dave Butler, and today I'm going to talk to Dr. Jared Price, who's a physician in Lehi, Utah, about health and wellness, and specifically about gut health and hormones and other things like that related to your health and how those can affect your scoliosis curve. He gives some great advice and insights into how our bodies, not just our scoliosis, or the structure of our spine affects our health and how we feel. And some of the interesting points that he makes are with motivation and how we just generally feel during the day and how that affects our ability to do scoliosis specific exercises and how that also affects how we feel about ourselves. I mean, there are so many aspects of health and so many things that affect our health that I think if you're looking for a podcast episode or some instruction on what health and wellness can do for you, improving your health and wellness can do for your scoliosis curve, I think this is a great episode to listen to. And he describes the way that he treats those with scoliosis and those in general, and some key points with adolescents and adults with scoliosis and how those differ and how he addresses those differently. So if you're looking for some more information on how to be more healthy and how that can support your scoliosis curve, this is the episode for you. So I appreciate you listening or watching to this podcast. And here's Jared Price. Welcome to today's podcast. I am here with Dr. Jared Price. He moved into our building recently, and a few weeks ago we got together and we were talking about how he treats patients and what he could offer the population that we see. So I thought it would be a fantastic opportunity to do a podcast episode with him and talk about some health and wellness aspects of scoliosis treatment and just spine and health treatment in general. So he's at Ultimate Health and Wellness Clinic here in Lehi. And welcome, Jared. If you want to introduce yourself, we'd love to know more about you.
Yeah, thanks, David. What I love most is to see like people get better, prevent disease, right? And I was actually doing family practice, urgent care, urology, even taught at university, Utah Valley University in nursing for a couple years. I love teaching. I love in all my rooms I have whiteboards because I love to teach about it. But
I noticed that in your office. I really like that actually.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I like the most is just being able to teach and get them to know how to fish, right? Know how to take care of their health so that they can now go forward and teach their families because it's really hard to be able to teach everybody and to help everybody. So the more I can spread this understanding of how to prevent that disease process, the better it will be. So I went to the University of Utah, got my nursing there, as well as a Bachelor of Science at UVU. And then I got my DNP, Doctor of Nursing Practice, up at the University of Utah. And then, yeah, started in urology, started to see the disease process not being fixed in urology, even with the men just wanting to be optimal, us just giving them medications, testosterone, but not really helping to get it to the next level where their cholesterol's in check and they're not having diabetic issues. Anyway, so sooner or later, I just found my footing in the right place, which was in a functional integrative space. And so I've been practicing now for 8 years, and I've been loving it. I've been loving the fact that like my tier system of treatment is you start with gut health and immune stability in the gut. And then once you and nutrition, those things are like number one. Then you shift into the hormones, what's still not happening. And then from there, you go into a detox pathway. So if you really look at it simply, it's energy to the cell, then drainage, then detox. And so if you look at all cellular health, we have 700 trillion cells. We've got to be able to get to all of those every day. So otherwise they start to migrate into sheep going everywhere, right? So you got to make sure that everything's being communicated to. So anyway, that's kind of a rundown of that really quick. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, that sounds pretty cool. I like that you have a systematized approach of addressing health in general. Very proactive, rather than reactive medicine. I really think that is definitely needed in our crazy society these days. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. So, if we bring it back a little bit to, I mean, this is the Scoliosis Experience podcast. So, what has been your experience with spinal health and scoliosis and maybe other spinal deformities, things like that? Just kind of give us your background on that.
Yeah, in urgent care, I had quite a few actually, that dealt with that. And just to go on a medicinal route, I was fascinated to see that family practice, how they treat back pain. They wouldn't x-ray, they wouldn't do a proper exam to even know like what's behind the skin, you know?
Mm.
And they would immediately go into a narcotic approach, which was not appropriate to help that be stable. And what was fascinating is I would ask the patient, because it was an urgent care, treating them like, have they worked you up? Have they done x-ray? And they're like, no, never. They just give me these medicines and go, well, let's x-ray. And soon enough, yeah, there's curvature to it. I'm like, no, you could actually do a lot more so you're not on pills the rest of your life. So there's that aspect where it's just a lack of digging deep enough to really help the individual be stable. I personally have like my sister with scoliosis.
Oh,
I think every individual has a person that they know with a deformity, right? It's just part of human life.
whether they
But
know it or not,
that's
whether they
right.
know that they have it or not. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. And with that being said, what I've noted is the motivation to keep on it so that they can be their healthiest self and stable self with that issue. So I feel like that's the dilemma that I've noted is that just being able to be on their A game to keep up on everything. Otherwise,
Right.
it gets ahead of them. So,
And I think it's really important that the discussion that you just said about medications and narcotics and pain meds. I mean, that's a pretty common way that back pain's treated. I mean, it's here's a pain medication, and yeah, a lot of people don't ever stray from that path. And
right.
so the more we can stray from that path and get them into better movement patterns and actually address the underlying cause, the
That's right.
better.
That's right. No, yeah, like the last guy before I left urgent care, he was like 27 on pain meds for
Oh,
low back pain. It was actually scoliosis.
so
It was
sad.
like, oh, dude, you don't want to go down that road. You just
Right.
don't want to, you know?
Starting too early
Anyway,
on that one, definitely. So,
yeah,
and
if ever.
ideally, not starting at all on that path would be nice.
Exactly, if ever. Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So, well, that's great. So, yeah, you have experience with scoliosis and spinal deformities and back pain in general. Uh, Give us an idea of what treatments you offer in your clinic. Maybe not necessarily totally related to scoliosis and spine. Just kind of give us an overview of the treatments that you offer.
Yeah, usually, when a patient comes in our office, we have in fact, it's in my thing right to that side. That's the
Okay.
Quest 4 in the corner of that picture. So, Quest 4 is actually a cool German machine that actually can do frequency medicine. So, instead of us needing to be very invasive with blood, we can actually just communicate with the body itself because every
Hmm.
single cell has a mitochondrial battery pack to it. And so that cell will now communicate with the machine because it's a frequency. So
Interesting.
basically, when they'll hold two rods that will make a complete circuit with the machine so that they can be able to now have a conversation, if you will, of muscle testing of thousands of different tests so that we can identify what is like the most highest priority and then what is the most burden load that they have. That's usually what I do first. I want to
Hmm.
just see where they're coming from in their life of what is the burden load that they're holding currently. So
So
that's
maybe just describe what burden load means.
okay.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like our liver is our big engine filter to our body.
Mhm.
And that liver will fill up with toxins and other things that it has to extract, remove, whatever, of migrating it out of the body. And so that can start to fill up like a bucket. And so when you start to see stuff popping up on your skin, or you're just sick all the time, or your gut is going south, that's a sign that the filter in your liver is toast.
Hmm.
It's not like toast like you need a liver transplant,
Right.
but you just need to start draining it and supporting it and actually doing protocols or modalities that will help get it removed so
Hmm.
it's not hurting it anymore. So, liver, it's so beautiful because our body is so communicative of how it talks to like through symptoms. So I'm huge on symptoms because if we don't ask the right questions enough, we don't understand what the body is doing. So
Hmm.
I ask my questionnaires, my patients laugh because I have tons of questionnaires that they have to fill out and they're just like, can we be done with it? But it's so important to me for the feedback of what's happening to them. But
Hmm.
going into that liver standpoint, the skin is huge. So people will get like pustule. Anyway, yeah, I'll actually just end it there. I'll go on a whole
Okay.
tangent with the liver, so I won't go there.
I can tell you're passionate about the liver. You're passionate
Yeah,
about the filter of our body.
yeah, that's right.
That's
So
awesome.
so I guess, yeah, we'll keep going on the treatment of the clinic. So
Yeah.
let's see. So once they go through that whole scan with Quest 4, they'll come and meet with me. And I always just ask, what are your top three things? Like, what would you really want to have changed if we could? So at the end of the appointment, I always circle back to make sure those three things were always addressed so that we make sure that we nailed it. But yeah, we'll just start to go through. I always hit onto bowel regulation. So our bowel movements is more than just poop, fecal matter. It is our number one fecal or our number one lymphatic drainage point. So if
Hmm.
our mouth to anus river is not draining enough, then all of our lymphatic sewer system in our body is also not draining.
Hmm.
So if that thing's backed up, now our whole system's backed up throughout our skin and cells, and it even goes to the brain. People with disrupted sleep at night, our brain actually increases flushing rate of fluid, and it actually has to flush to the lymph. If the lymph is congested, now they can't sleep because now the brain's
Interesting.
irritated. So it's a
Yeah.
fascinating connection. It's a big sewer system.
Right.
So yeah, but it's all connected.
It's
So
actually,
there's that piece.
yeah,
Oh, what?
that's really interesting because I don't know that I've ever thought of it that way, as you know, everything having if some one thing is clogging up the system, then the whole system just goes awry, right?
Yep. Yep. And usually that is when you start to increase that burden load of liver issue. So it
Yeah.
will start to get sick because it has to now hold it all because our bowel movements won't go. So I always say like 2 to 3 a
Hmm.
day is the standard way to success. Most are like 0 to 1, and that's not
Right.
enough. So our body has to like for kiddos, though that's different. They just are 1 a day because they're very optimal. But as we are like a teenager to older adults, now we do need to get 2 out just because
Hmm.
our burden loads are just a little slower to get things out. So we need to make sure that the bowel movement is really always moving.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's okay. So that's the number one thing I address with their
Okay.
quest 4 in the room. And then number three would be their protein goal.
Hmm.
Very underestimated is protein. So I always establish that always in my first visit because till I always know them, they will always be asked, how is your protein goal? Because most people's fatigue and issue, muscle wasting, which involves spine stability,
Definitely.
is related to how are they feeding their muscles. And this whole tirzepatide, Mounjaro, semaglutide, Ozempic, those are very muscle wasting agents. If we do not exercise,
Hmm.
make sure we're getting protein to be able to counteract what that is doing to us. So protein, especially stress. I mean, cortisol, people don't understand this point. If you don't, I'll just go this direction.
No, yeah, it's
Um,
great.
Okay, so cortisol is our diabetic risk factor. People wonder, why did I get gestational diabetes when I was pregnant? Cortisol with female pregnancies go clear up to the 30s, even 40s. Cortisol stable range is 14 to 16. They're
Hmm.
cooking at a very high rate of glucose. And so they actually can go diabetic if they don't work on regulating their vagal nerve and protein. So I have my pregnant people always come in when I'm seeing them. They're excited to be pregnant, but I always follow them in each trimester because I can actually tweak and help them stay out of that mess. Anyway,
Hmm.
but going on to general public, cortisol, most, especially the moms, because they're amazing, they are doing so much for their family, but their cortisols sit less than 10. They struggle to get it at 14 to 16. And you wonder, okay, well, it's a low cortisol. Why is that bad?
Hmm.
Cortisol, when it's low, it actually did a story there where it spiked and then crashed. And
Uh,
so adrenal insufficiency starts hitting at stage one is 7, stage two is less than 5. And I've seen females as low as like 3. And so their adrenals just crash because of their push of stress in their life. But what's happening further is that glucose factor is totally wrecking them. That's the visceral fat on the
hmm.
abdomen and thigh that they can't lose because they're just push, push, push. And that glucose makes them diabetic and it also makes them with visceral fat that they can't lose.
Hmm.
They've even said I'm the cleanest eater, and it doesn't matter. It's the systems inside them that are at
Hmm.
array or disarray. There's one more thing I was going to share. Oh man, this is such a good topic. I'm very protein electrolytes counteract that effect to even happen.
Okay.
There was a European study that showed that when people eat enough protein every day, they keep their fight or flight signal in check by 50%. When
Hmm.
people are always just dipped into low protein every day, it encourages the fight or flight. And that's a natural
Hmm.
response of survival. It's, I've got to go hunt. I'm going to die if I don't take care of my body. But we actually just push, push, and ignore. And so
Yeah.
our health takes the hit. It's kind of fascinating. It's one of the most important things. Cortisol crushes all of our hormones. So if we don't regulate the cortisol, all of the other hormones like thyroid, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, all of that gets disarrayed.
So if you're
So
doing hormone replacement therapy, but you're not controlling cortisol, then uh,
toast.
yeah, you might as well maybe not might as well not be doing it, but it definitely isn't as effective as it could be.
Yeah, so you'll see plenty of people on hormone therapy and then they still have huge guts or you know what I mean? Like they'll still not feel optimal and they'll still feel like they can't lose weight. And that is the cortisol side.
Uh,
So, and just you just have to think like hormones are just communicating to the nucleus of the cell, right? But if that cell is hijacked from a fight or flight response, it won't really matter.
it's not going to
It's
listen.
like, we got to run from this bear. Thank you for that message. We'll listen to it once we're resting.
Right. And that
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So,
And that bear is anything these days, right?
yeah, yeah. I got to get 5 kids to school. Yeah,
Right.
that part.
We have different bears in our
Yeah.
lives as far as and it's interesting you talk about low cortisol levels also being an issue. I don't know that I've heard that before, it's like cortisol is always thought of as the enemy. Like, oh, you need
Yeah.
to keep your cortisol levels low, but it makes sense with it crashing, it's going to be low.
Yes. Excuse me. I didn't mention that. You want a saliva test, cortisol to be low, but the blood test is your whole day's worth of reservoir. So a
Oh.
cortisol trajectory starts high, and that's when I test it. I want to see, is their tank even filling up, or is it just always crashed? Because in the morning when you wake up, at 9 a.m. is the highest peak of your cortisol.
Hmm.
And so it starts at 3 a.m., but then that's how we actually wake up with circadian is cortisol will start turning on and then melatonin turns off. So we'll wake up.
Hmm.
So at 9 a.m. is the peak, and that's when you want to test before 10 or around 10 a.m. So that's the 14-16 range because that has to last now the whole day's worth before it's done, and then you can go to bed again. But some people are launching at like only at a 5. So they are toast by like 1 or 12 or 1. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm saying like everyone's toast these days, but no, like just they're
We're all
insufficient
toast.
handling it. Yeah, we're toast. It's game over anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, so but that's what's going on there.
Okay. Well, that's very complete. I mean, you're not just addressing one thing, getting focused on one aspect. You're looking at the whole, how the whole system works together.
Yeah. Yep.
That's great.
It's a
Cool.
symphony.
Yeah.
Women are such a symphony, man.
Yeah.
Like they are such an amazing creature. Like what they go through down here. Sorry, but I mean, we all
I
believe there's
agree.
something out there. Yeah. So, but
Yeah.
they go through so much, and so their female hormones are such a symphony that if they're one or two are jacked, they are truly feeling that inside. So anyway, we're
Yeah.
simple. We're just testosterone and thyroid for a
Yeah.
green light. So anyway.
Interesting. Okay. So now that you've told us about the treatments that you do at your office, how might those treatments help those dealing with scoliosis and kyphosis and other spine issues, um, as it relates to the treatments you talked about, or other things that you do?
Yeah, yeah. So what I've noted is per individual of age group, there's a different route you would go with it. And I believe in individualized plans so that it's more personalized and motivational to them so that they feel like I've got a personalized plan here, you know? So I
Definitely.
actually scribe myself. I've always thought to get a scribe, but the scribes mess it up. So I actually scribe and we have it on a screen and we just talk about it as we do it together. Anyway,
Right.
a treatment plan. So for the young adult or the younger groups, I actually focus a lot on that quest four that I was mentioning of seeing the pathogens coming in. And those pathogens, if it is a big issue, I'll quickly try to get energy to the cell to then detoxing that cell.
Hmm.
Because anyone less than 13 or even less than 18 years of age, that's the time of their lives, right? Like their hormones should be bursting at the seams, tons of peptides circulating everywhere. They should not be crashing in bed, struggling to focus, all that jazz,
Hmm.
right? Like there's a lot of stuff happening there that's making the liver feel overwhelmed. So we'll focus. I'll tell them what their burden is, but I won't detox them unless their bowel movements are 2 to 3, because that means they can't get it out, first of all.
Hmm.
So it's actually really hard on the system to kill something and then it sits. You'll get super sick if
Mm,
things aren't
yeah.
moving.
Makes
So
sense.
we will always make sure that that's moving first. So first of all, we always focus on energy of the cell, and for a younger group of population group, I would always focus on nutrition. Lack of nutrition, lack of protein, water, electrolyte usually is a big factor into that. We do have a nutritional program that we do here to actually help optimize those cells. As you've seen, our food these days is not regenerative farming. That's a new buzzword, but regenerative farming
Hmm.
is rotated soil. So we don't have rotated. We just cut
No,
the food and then regrow. So the problem with that is there's no nutrient in what we're eating. We're eating broccoli and it's organic, but there's nothing in it. So
is it
that's the big.
is it because that soil has just been used up with those
Yep, yep,
nutrients? Okay, that makes
yep,
sense.
yep. So there's an ion communication with the soil and the plant, and so those ions of minerals start to go into the plant. But then once it's neutralized at a homeostasis level, now the plant won't extract.
Hmm.
So that's why you got to rotate. So then if the nutrient is more dense, so then there's an it's like osmolarity where Sorry,
Mhm.
that's a big word, but it's just a balance between a plant and the soil that it's trying
Yeah,
to do.
that makes
And
sense. Yeah.
plant. Anyway, so regenerative farming, that's how we get our minerals. So we focus on this nutritional program to help detox, drain the cell, put energy in the cell, and then support the immune system through the whole process. And then we start to clean up the blood supply as well as the lymph. If we fix the
Hmm.
tubing system, blood is going to the cell, lymphatic is waste going away from the cell. And then we have basically a cell itself that needs food in and trash coming out. If you fix all of that mechanism, they are like their young selves again. So that's what we focus on. So,
Yeah.
and usually if you just do all those things, they'll have that motivation to now do the scoliosis treatment plans, right? Because
Interesting.
usually, right? Because if they're
Yeah.
just sluggish, they're going to really struggle. Yeah, I didn't do my exercises I needed to, right? They want to, but they can't because there's other things hindering that. And
I.
that's what, honestly, regardless of age, that's the biggest factor is that motivational piece, getting
Mhm.
hormones, getting cellular burden load low enough so that they feel motivated to take care of themselves.
Well, and it's interesting because you just touched on the biggest struggle in scoliosis treatment across the board, whether that's bracing, exercise, anything like that. It's motivation and
Yeah,
consistency. And if that makes sense, because a lot of times I have patients, younger patients that come into the office and they're like, I say, hey, how did your exercises go? Oh, I just didn't get to them, and it's sometimes it's because they don't recognize the need for it and the benefit,
yeah,
but
yeah.
a lot of times it's like they're not having motivation to do anything.
Yeah, and they would rather just sit in bed or whatever. And the brain,
Mhm.
yeah. Oh man, yep. Neurologic is so big. So
Yeah.
yeah, and neurologic disease, just so you know, like when the nerves are being taken over, that's actually the last step of chronic illness.
Hmm.
So if there's neurologic issues going on, that's you want to get on that sooner than later because it's making a home in something that's very
Hmm.
hard to get into. So anyway,
Interesting.
yeah,
So,
big deal.
I mean, here you're talking about adolescents and, kids, basically younger patients with scoliosis, um,
Yeah.
and touching on the adult side as well. But what we talked about a lot of things, but if someone's listening to this and they either are an adolescent with scoliosis or they're a parent with a kid with scoliosis, what does that treatment look like? Like in a simplified step process, what would that look like for them if they came in to see you?
Wait, for the parent or for the kid that's coming in, or
For the
both?
kid that's coming in. Yeah, just so they
For the
can know
kid
what
that's
to
coming in.
expect. Yeah.
Yeah. So they would get that little machine. They would hold on to those rods over there.
Okay.
And that actually is brought into the room, and they would just start that screening. It's nothing crazy. It's just a little tingling in the hands, and that's about it. But it's just
Okay.
testing a bunch of different things. So we get that understanding of the pathologic burden that's happening. Then the next step is then let's talk about lifestyle, movement, protein, water intake, electrolytes. Make
Hmm.
sure that the whole picture of them is being seen. They'll have a whole questionnaire that they'll fill out that will look through all the symptomology together to make sure that there's no risks that are being missed. But yeah, it's still back to energy of the cell where we'd focus on the nutrition. Because
Hmm.
if we can get most things under control through that, that's like 80% of the issue. For even the older adults, it's 80%. I'm the 20%. I'm here to help if the energy of the cell is not working after nutrition. So
Yeah.
I'm really grateful. I just barely launched the nutrition program about a month ago, and it's already doing wonderful. So really
Awesome.
cool results are already happening on young and old. And then after that, I would just say we would just see follow up. My goal is like within 6 months to a year, they're in the time of their life.
Hmm.
Like we try to really focus that they are not on endless treatment plan. It's like very quick. We pivot each session so that it's very focused and methodical how we're doing everything. So to help them through it.
Cool.
I would say, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing on that aspect. If you have other questions.
Well, so do they don't do blood tests with you, or do they do
So
blood tests?
if they're teenagers, I'll do blood testing. If they're
Okay.
younger, so like less than 12, that's probably more of a quest for work with nutrition, work with just things that were symptomatically just
Okay.
helping. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just very invasive, unless it's very
Mm.
like severe case where we do need to figure out this infection, we'll do blood and urine.
Okay.
But otherwise, yeah, teenagers, you bet, because there can be thyroid disruption at this point, and they might need
Mm.
thyroid support. And I like to do a desiccated, which is a ground up pig thyroid, so it's natural. I don't do the pharmaceutical the best I can. I I stay clear of that. So,
Yeah.
and if anyone's listening, their thyroid medicine should not be levothyroxine. It shuts down their thyroid. So you want to do the stuff that's supportive. Back in the olden days, that's all
Hmm.
they would do. If they support the spleen, they'd get the cow and grind up the spleen and they would eat it. Same thing with the
Right.
thyroid. Grind up the thyroid and eat it. So we do it through a pill. So and that's how we do that.
That's
So
interesting.
anyway, yeah.
Or
So, but
or you can go find a thyroid and grind it up.
yeah, that's right. There you go.
Okay. Well,
So,
cool.
but yeah, blood test, you bet. We'll do that on the teenagers.
Okay. What about you talked about saliva testing? Is that something you do on those patients as well?
Saliva testing is helpful. Hard to. I'm fine to go that route. It's just you can't do a battery of tests through saliva. So it's just
Yeah.
like one or two tests, but then I'd still have to do blood. So that's why I've just stuck to blood. So it's
Yeah.
just not like all these things trying to get collected. So
Okay.
anyway,
Cool.
it
That
is
makes
more
sense.
accurate. I will say that it is more accurate,
Hmm.
but I've still been able to optimize without it. So,
Cool. Yeah, and I think the listeners that have teenagers or the teenagers listening, a lot of times they want to know what to expect. So that's really helpful to help them to know if they come to see you to support this journey that they're on with scoliosis, what that looks like. So thank you for describing that. So
and
I'm
we even have a lab center here. So,
oh you
and
do.
it's something yeah, so you can recline back. It's not in this hard, stiff chair. We
That's
try to
nice.
make it very comfortable so that they can be able to handle what's happening.
That's great.
So,
All right, so we've talked about adolescents and kids and how we can support them in their scoliosis journey. Um, I think you wanted to talk about adults as well, or the older population. So, what do you got for those?
yeah, so really it's just like taking that the kid scenario because it's still important. That's base foundational for all human life, right? But now what we can do is we can realize that that 20% I was talking about, because the 80% is the nutritional side, that 20% is just an aging process where you need now a physician or provider to help you age
Hmm.
gracefully.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so that's where I come in to make sure that hormones are regulating appropriately and actually taking advantage of all the nutrient that we're actually putting into the body so that they can have good outcomes. So for females,
Hmm.
that can exist with balancing progesterone, estrogen, because you always got to balance those two. They're the sisters that need to be nice to each other.
Hmm.
And then the thyroid, always, and then the testosterone. And then obviously there's that vagoregulation piece. One of my colleagues said it best. If we don't vagoregulate, the doors are shut and the body won't receive any form of treatment, including hormones. So that vagal nerve fight or flight response will actually block everything from even working. So
Hmm.
we really have to make sure that we're regulating every day and I have all these processes to help them with that. So that's the picture on the female. The male, I've kind of mentioned. It's really just getting that testosterone and thyroid in check and making sure that they're not going estrogen dominant with
Hmm.
gynecomastia. Cancer risk is also big. People are always, I'll bring that up. They're always worried that, hey, even though it's bioidentical, because that's all I do is bioidentical, meaning
Right.
bioidentical, which is that the body is used to that form of hormone. There's synthetic form, and then there's the bioidentical side. And that's like extracted from yam, where the body can recognize those hormones. So
Hmm.
anyway, so there was what's a WHI study in 1995 of pharmaceuticals that actually did synthetic estrogen, which was estriol or estrone, excuse me, and
Hmm.
basically took that into the females, and two people got breast cancer, but it was synthetic form. I have honestly, people will get like questionable lesions that are coming and going, but they'll never ever get actual cancer to this day. So that's what's really cool is that if we give what our body was meant to have, like there's no way Mother Earth is trying to kill us at the end of our life with cancer from the
Right.
very thing that developed us. So I just kind of want to squash that just because it is so powerful. And this is how you'll know. People may wonder, how do I know hormones are off? And you'll know, well, first off, Jekyll and Hyde experience of just not being yourself all the time. But then there's this brain tiredness and the body tiredness. And it's just as important for the moms and dads trying to support their kids. Like they will come and show up in their life so much better if their hormones are still with them, showing up with them. Like they won't be grumpy, they'll have motivation to go and do things, make memories together. And that's what it's about, right? So in a year, like I have people always telling me in a year when they're in maintenance, and maintenance looks every 6 months that I just have to follow up with them for hormone therapy. But I usually like every 2 to 3 months, usually 2 months to get them in the right spot. But people will say all the time, I am like in the best life I've ever had. Like I haven't felt this in a long time.
That's
And so
awesome.
that's what our goal is to bring it back to them so that they can have that longevity, vitality, and just being able to age gracefully and have the memories that they've been wanting to have with their family. So
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is I keep hearing even now, I mean, hormone replacement, bioidentical hormone replacement therapy has been around for a while now, but I still hear so
yeah,
many providers even concerned about the cancer risks. And I'm like, have you read the current research or are we just stuck on that study?
yeah.
It's crazy to me because there's so many things that can be benefited by doing that.
Yep, and I'll have providers because they'll still see their primary care, quote unquote, with traditional
Mhm.
medicine, right? The patients will. So I'll have providers talk to me and we'll work out a plan. I don't want to be a God complex, right? I don't want to be just
Right.
like I know everything, but and so I'll play nice in the bus with the other providers, but I do just like to help them understand like symptomology is improving. Why don't we just go on that journey with them? That if they're
Yeah.
improving, we can just really have better outcomes. So, one thing that I would say most people with hormone therapy are missing that I really correct, that is, real rarely it's like, whoa, they're dangerous levels and they almost hurt you, but rather it's they're not helping that liver drain.
Hmm.
So people will get very symptomatic with hormone therapy if the metabolites of the hormones aren't getting out of their body. So
Interesting.
those metabolites are actually carcinogenic and they are actually very inflammatory that they need to be bound effectively in the liver so that they drain effectively out through 2 to 3 bowel movements. So that's why we
Interesting.
need 2 to 3 bowel movements because like you
Yeah.
you will back up your whole system and you will go south regardless what you're doing, right? So down to the details, right? You got to follow that river all the way out in the fecal matter.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah. Most people probably don't like it initially following that out to the fecal matter, but you got to talk about
Right.
it, right?
Oh yeah, it's pretty awesome. We talk about poop all the time. We have emojis for everything, so it's great.
That's awesome. So let's say adults are definitely different with scoliosis and spinal problems. How does this support just the spine in general, or maybe just bone health in general? Maybe touch on that a little bit.
So I have a case study with a female. She's like 78 years old, female. Doesn't have scoliosis, but it's still applicable. Maybe she doesn't need to see you. I don't know. So she has osteopenia that has progressed into osteoporosis. And she was just told that from a DEXA scan. And so she's wondering, because I've been treating her for 5 months now. But the thing is that we have to be patient with chronic issues like that. you have to think marrow has to change its course, and marrow doesn't change overnight, right?
Mm,
So it's even longer that it's probably the longest one that has to shift. So next to cholesterol. And so what is noted is that testosterone and estrogens, estradiol specifically, goes into the marrow to actually work on the osteoblast relationship. And
mm,
it actually is starting to do a lot of the increase of bone marrow health. So it's very healthy response. I've actually fixed a lot of females' frame from being in a whole osteoporosis issue back to a female frame that's 16 years old.
mm,
Um, she's still in that process, so she's concerned it's progressed. But I said, let's do a lab and we'll see. Sure enough, her estrogen is only at 50 to be effectively bathing your bones in a
mm.
proper amount of estrogen, it needs to get up to like 75 to 120. So I'm like, and she's timid, right? She's so nervous with this estrogen. So I was playing with that relationship, but that is, and if everyone can listen to this, this is important. That is what will happen if you don't let hormones really protect you. You will have chronic
Mm.
illness and comorbidity take your life. For male and female, that looks like breast cancer for female, prostate cancer for male, and then it also will look like heart disease and diabetes for male and female.
Mm.
So, uh, obviously, there's this other stuff of breaking the hip. That's very common, which if all the older adult want to not break their hip, I always helped them in the ICU when I was in urology. You should have done your protein and you should have done the hormones. Those two
Right.
things, protein to fix the muscle and the hormones to protect you, it would have fixed them. So preventable. That's what's really sad is we are in a society of medicine where that culture is actually expected to happen for business. And so
Right.
if we wanted to prevent that, to help take that back from them, it would just be to simply do hormones. Their vitality is improved immensely. They start riding bikes, they start being active again. So people
Mm.
may wonder, when can I start hormones? You start to dial down in your brainstem. The brainstem is the problem. It's actually wired to turn off, so you're aged. So
Interesting.
it's not our, I'm just trying to help you age gracefully because of the brainstem. So basically, at age 25, it's noted that you start to drop or decrease in hormones by 2%. Obviously, our environmentals of like glyphosate and all the pesticides is shifting that because we're noted to be sterile with our population in America by 2050 if we don't shift. Just
Wow.
because the pesticides and everything are actually sterilizing our kids. I actually had a kid yesterday. He's actually only 15 and his testosterone's still not even showing up. So I'm like, and
Wow.
he's actually really sick with alopecia. So there's a
Hmm.
lot of stuff happening, but that's that nutritional side that will take care of that. So I'm not
Yeah.
too concerned. But we still come back to that 25 years of age. That's the statistic showing that it starts to decrease by 2% each year. And so you just think like menopause or age 50 of a guy, they don't even know who they are, right? And it's so
Right.
gradual that they're used to it, right? So they just say, no, I'm getting old. This is old. This is what it looks like. But they
Right.
don't realize underneath the skin, their whole makeup and composition is going south to actually take their life. And so it's very important that we just keep up with hormones. So at age 30 and beyond, depending on the severity, yeah, hormones could be a thing
Cool.
that we can start.
Yeah, and I'm glad you touched on menopause because that's when, we see scoliosis progress in adolescents when they're growing during puberty, but I also see it progress in women around menopause. And so if we can adjust that and improve bone health and improve general health, keep their mobility, their strength, I mean, heck, that'd be a changer
Yeah,
for that
absolutely.
population.
Right. And it comes down to that still thing we said at the beginning, and that's motivation, right?
Hmm.
Motivation and just not the stiffness to be able to be active, right? So being more longevity, vitality of just being able to now go and do things and being motivated is amazing.
Oh yeah.
People hitting the gym that they haven't done in 4 years or
Yeah.
playing their favorite sport. So anyway, it's just really fun.
Hmm.
That to me is my reward is to see system processes shift in the right direction.
Yeah. Get people pooping and get them playing, right?
That's right. Oh, I just love that.
I think we know the title of this podcast episode. It will be Poop and Play, something like that. So,
Very perfect.
um,
That'll
well,
be easy
cool.
to find.
Right. So, do you have any other advice for those dealing with scoliosis or other spinal deformities?
Yeah, I would just say being consistent. Daily efforts make a big reward. So if they can just stay in that dailiness of everything, it can go a long ways for them.
Yeah. And I think that probably, from what you've already said about your treatment approach, it's a daily thing, right? It's the nutrition side, it's the activity side, it's, making sure you're eating the right things, and it's a consistent process.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's a choice we make every day. What route we want to head to. If you
Yeah.
don't invest now, you'll just pay for it later. It's coming
Right.
either way. It's just which way do you want it to go. So,
Yeah. That's really cool. So let's say someone is listening to this podcast and they're like, I want to start with Dr. Price and get working on this. How do they go
yeah.
about doing that? What things do you offer? Stuff like that.
Yeah, so they can just text or call our front desk, and we have a whole system process to get them set up. It will be just a text back, or they'll talk to you over the phone about the whole thing. Um,
Okay.
so it really is, if there isn't a spot, we have what's called the wait list, but there's cancellations, rescheduling occurring, and then they slip right in that spot. So don't get
Cool.
discouraged with the wait list. It's part of the system process. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's kind of our flow with that.
Yeah.
So, but the phone number is 801, you would love that, 801-477-0068. So,
I'll put that in the description so
uh,
that people can reference that. So
okay,
not a problem. So well, cool. I think this definitely has some good aspects and integration into what we're trying to do with scoliosis treatment, and even just the motivation side. I think that's the biggest takeaway for me. It's like, how do we motivate our patients to do more for their scoliosis or for their spine? And how do we do that if their motivation's way low? Well, we need to get their motivation up. And sometimes it's
hmm
not creating a board on the wall that they check off. Maybe it's an internal motivation that we need to work on.
yeah,
And that just, we need to go back to pooping, I guess.
yeah. Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Music to your ears. Look at
Yeah, I love that. I'm glad you sunk into that. So that's great.
that. So, well, great. I appreciate you being on the podcast, Dr. Price. And yeah,
Yeah,
any
thank
final
you.
thoughts? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, do you care if I actually just shift one more thought?
Yeah, go ahead.
Peptide therapy, if you want a foundational pyramid of success, it's nutritionals, that 80%, and within the 20% is hormone and peptide therapy. You don't, if people are going crazy on peptides, and those are just amino acids, like 6 to 8 amino acids made into an injectable, to help enhance their body, right? The teenagers and college students, they all have tons of peptides in them, and then it fails for the older. So
Yeah.
anyway, I do peptide therapy on everybody. I did it on the case study of our 76-year-old female. She's on peptide to help bring back that muscle at a faster rate, to help encourage the bones. So there is that factor that's very helpful to help reverse the atrophy of muscle. But with that being said, I don't go to peptide therapy if I haven't done the first two blocks. You got to
Hmm.
get nutrition in that spot because it could fix it already, right? And
Yeah.
then the next step is hormone. It's water. You're wasting a lot of your money and investment by not having the other steps in place first. So,
And I like that because I think other providers do those other steps without addressing, like it's kind of pick what you want, but yeah, if it's not efficient,
yeah.
why do it until you've got the
Well,
other
and with
blocks?
that, I mean, people will go off it and boom, they're sinking right back. And that's an expensive investment that they're
Yeah.
paying like $2 to $1,000. Like it's just not worth it. The hormones are a consistency factor that will hold them a lot better than the peptide would.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and what's interesting, you mentioned something about atrophy, helping with muscle atrophy. We know it happens as we age. But does it have to be as extensive as it is? And the research on scoliosis is showing really a loss of the multifidus and a lot of those deep spinal muscles that are there to support our spine. So anything we
yep,
can do to lessen the atrophy and really get that muscle back can only be helpful.
yep, absolutely. That's why I brought it up because I'm
Yeah,
sure that's in that arena. So,
fantastic.
anyway,
Cool. Well, I appreciate your thoughts and we appreciate you having on the podcast. Thank you for being
yeah,
with
thank
us.
you so much, Dave. It's been awesome. So,
Yeah,
thanks again.
thanks.